We're live. Welcome to a special edition. You've heard us say special edition quite a bit lately because they have been special because of our guests. We have Dr. Denim Slade back with us. If y'all had a chance to listen to the podcast this week, it is Dr. Slade giving us some fantastic insights and tools for us to use. We'll have them recap in a moment. Your Uncle Rex, Tylee and JJ's great uncle. Adam's here with us, and Kimberly's our moderator today. Missy's in the audience, but doesn't have a laptop, apparently, is what I understand, Missy. We'll look forward to her joining us next time or when she has a laptop ready, but we're grateful for what Kimberly's doing. Lindsay, our chief of staff. Lindsay Gandy is in the amongst y'all today, as she always is, but I know a lot of you communicate with her regularly. She wanted to let you know that she's on a break this week, so she may not be communicating with you as quickly. It's not that she's ignoring you, or maybe she is ignoring you, but the point is you may not hear from her as quickly as you have before, and then she'll be back probably the week after. So she's not deserting us. She's just off for this week. Adam, we've had a lot of great guests. We're following a
pattern.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, recently in our podcast, we've been talking a lot about healing. And we've had several guests on that have been really great at helping everybody with their own lives and healing in their own lives. Our soap opera star, Denim Slade.
Where did that come from?
I told you, he's got the greatest soap opera name ever.
Days of Our Lives, Rex. Did you miss that?
Yes, we did. That was the very first podcast we had with him. And by the way, we had some comments of some women that really enjoy watching the podcast because they say he's easy on the eyes. So this is all things are when you get our age, and these are great things to hear.
Yeah, they must like old men, right?
I guess so. We're the gray foxes. Anyways, we appreciate the things that you've brought to the show and helped some of our viewers, our optimists with thinking about certain things. And the last couple podcasts we've had you on, there's been several people that have pondered the things that you said. And in our last podcast, which we're going to have you recap what you said, but somebody had mentioned a comment saying, well, Adam, I'm glad you asked him if you are all three of the styles that he had mentioned, because I was going to ask, I had that same question. And we like the way that you explain attachment styles and for relationships. And you did such a good job in our podcast. First of all, thanks for coming on with us on a live. This is different because people can just talk to you live now, send messages. Yeah. If you guys got messages, make sure you pod them up here on YouTube. And those of you who are listening to this podcast later, or on whatever, make sure you can email Rex and Adam at gmail.com if you have any questions or you want to make comments, and that's the only way you can get through to us. Do that as well. We have a lot of people on our comments page right now. Kimberly's going to be putting those questions through, but Dr. Slade, Denim, I don't know which one you want us to call you, more professional or less professional.
You can call me whatever you want. Denim's great.
Coach, because I know you're a coach as well.
Right.
So let's talk about the last time you were on.
If you want to.
Yeah, right. Last time you were here, you talked about attachment styles for relationships. So let's just kind of start there again and just recap of kind of what you said in the last podcast in case people have questions about it.
Yeah. So every single one of us has what the attachment system. Every single one of us has an attachment system, a rule book inside our brains, and the attachment system's job is to help us monitor and regulate connection. Specifically, what it does is it helps us monitor and manage both emotional and physical proximity to our caregiver, to our attachment figures. And so the attachment style is a blueprint or a rule book that gets wired into our brains during the first 3 years of life, and gets created depending on what happens during what are called attachment moments, which are moments when we're disorganized emotionally, when we're in need, we're afraid, we're scared, we're sad, lonely, or really good moments too. We're super excited or whatever. And how that dynamic plays out with our caregivers, with our parents, usually during the first 3 years of life, wires in this rule book that then dictates how we manage and regulate connection from there forward, unless we do something to change it. Is that you want me to go deeper?
No, I like it. I hopefully
Well, go ahead and tell us, if you would go on, because we talk about trauma so much on the show. What does trauma do in the relationship, not only with our spouse, but with other family members?
Yeah. So typically attachment style, like I said, the blueprint typically doesn't change, even though it is changeable. And the reason why it doesn't change is because we usually continue to surround ourselves with people who give us exactly what we expect to get, who treat us the way that we expect to be treated. And so we subconsciously end up creating these, just the data that we expect for the rest of our lives. Which if we're avoidant, we tend to choose people who maybe are a little clingy, so that it justifies us not being super available, because we can say, well, yeah, look how clingy they are. If we're anxious, we tend to choose people who are avoidant, because they give us what we expect. But trauma, when we experience trauma, those are the kinds of events that can rock our world sufficiently to force a redefinition, and because most of the time all this is going on under the surface, and we're not even consciously aware of it. And trauma can be something that can bring this up to take the covert and make it overt strongly enough that it can kind of rock our world. Most often, trauma takes us more from a healthier place to an unhealthy place. It's not super typical that trauma takes us from an unhealthy place and helps us become more healthy, unfortunately.
Right.
But does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's why we probably recognize, maybe we've had this situation, or we know people who, after trauma might ruin a relationship, an established relationship, because these rules, as you pointed out, that are subconscious, are in effect, and they've changed, or they've rocked your world, and we don't realize why the other person's doing what they're doing, and
Totally.
it's hard to adjust to that.
Yes. Let me give you an example. So if I have a secure attachment style, and I believe that relationships can be trusted, and I don't have a hard time depending on people and letting people in, and then I lose somebody really close to me. All of a sudden, being close and really depending on somebody isn't safe any longer. It becomes really scary to depend on somebody that much, and to let yourself be that vulnerable with somebody, because we don't want to hurt, right? Pain is one of the most predictable motivators for us as human beings. And so then we can say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to allow myself to get close to somebody like that and give them the power, because I don't want to feel this way anymore. And so it can shock us, and either subconsciously or consciously, we can say, okay, I'm going to keep people at bay. I'm not going to keep letting myself have that kind of vulnerability or exposure, because it's too painful.
Excellent. Let's get to our first question from one of our optimists. And next time you contact us, because I don't know how to pronounce this name, it drives me crazy. Is it Joe Sue or Jose W? Or so give me a pronunciation guide next time you type in here, and I can get that straight. But the question, more importantly, Dr. Slade made me contemplate my attachment style. It seems I have different styles for different types of relationships. Is that common?
Well, it's kind of what you're getting at, Adam, right? And that's a really good question. So typically, no. Typically, we will have a rule book that will dictate how we relationships kind of work like folders in our brains, and we have different, like for me, my kids are all in a folder in my brain, and I am constantly calling them the wrong name. It doesn't matter what their gender is. It doesn't matter, as long as they're one of my kids. I might call Rachel Will.
Yes.
I might call
Yes.
Will.
My dad used to do that all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're all in the same folder in my brain.
Yeah. And
so,
don't lie to me, because you live in this house and I will find out who you are.
Exactly. Whoever you are.
Right.
And so typically we have a set of rules for a type of relationship. Now, if you're saying I respond differently to friends than I do my spouse, or I respond differently to my parents than I do, my siblings, that's a different thing. Attachment isn't about just any relationship. An attachment style doesn't apply just to any relationship. The attachment relationship, the primary attachment relationship, is either with a spouse. In fact, the research shows that there are only 3 relationships that can fully function as a secure base.
Interesting.
You have parent, spouse, or God. And so understanding that and not trying to get your attachment needs from a relationship that cannot healthfully meet those needs is a super important aspect of understanding and managing connection well. And so Joe Sue, sorry if I'm
Joe Susan's right.
We'll just call her Joe.
Joe.
We'll just call her Joe.
So I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. But so I would bet that you have an attachment style that corresponds to your primary attachment relationships, whether that's a parent or a spouse or what have you. We could talk more about the importance of relying on the right people for the right emotional needs if you want to, but you might have a different relationship with your dad than your mom as you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And you might feel safer with one. You might have a different kind of reaction, but typically that will, as you launch into adulthood, you will adopt one of those rule books, one of those blueprints, and that will become the roadmap that you follow in your intimate relationships.
Very good. Thank you. Let me pause for just a second to recognize Becky's generous donation here. And I didn't mention this for those that didn't hear it last time. And Lindsay clued us in on this. Apparently, April is Autism Awareness Month.
Oh.
And so Lindsay and Kimberly, who run the merch store and do whatever they do with that money, said they're donating all the proceeds from the merch store or profits to an autism foundation or an autism charity. So Adam and I decided to do the same thing for any donations that Optimists give to the podcast at any point, whether it's during a live or
later
when it's not live. Yeah. So this money will go to that same autism foundation that the merch store is donating to.
Way to go, Becky.
So thank you,
thanks,
Becky. She said, blessings to you all. May you find distinct moments of joy knowing how much this community has helped others. And I know it has. It's helped us, hasn't it, Adam?
Yeah, we came for help, and then we ended up getting all the help we really were looking for. So, and continue to get help, which is great. And having guests on like Denim Slade, our new found life coach. So this is great.
Yeah, and Dana Morrison's from here in St. George, Utah, where Denim practices. In fact,
hey Dana,
he really appreciates what Dr. Slade has to say, as do we all. We appreciate him being here with us.
Always learning. I love it.
I probably shouldn't be outside. Our allergies here in St. George are pretty bad right now.
Oh, come on. You're just touched emotionally because people care about you.
That is
Didn't you
so
tell me
nice.
that in our last session? Come on, Denim.
Oh, you made him cry during your session, Rex? You didn't tell me that.
Somebody made somebody cry. We may not say.
We know it's Rex. Rex is a crybaby like me. We're both criers.
Oh my! It doesn't take much to make me cry.
Okay, so we got three crybabies.
Yeah, he makes me cry every session. He enjoys that. Lisa likes hearing about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Donna Barnes says, Adam Rex, hello, handsome gentlemen. I want to just say you've both been praying for you because of the trial. God bless you and your amazing family. I appreciate that. And in fact, I checked in with my coach this last week because of the trial. And I was talking to him. Now, he can't say anything about this, but I think I can. Even
You
though
can say whatever you want. And I can say whatever you want me to say if you give me permission to.
Right.
Yeah. I think you can have permission to talk about anything we've talked about. It's not like I haven't bared my soul to this group here. So
Right. Everybody knows everything.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything off limits here. But I was checking in because, first of all, because y'all encourage us to so much. You optimists. You say you're concerned about us. Are we ready for this trial? The emotions it'll bring. And I don't really know that I am because I don't know how to get ready. So I went to talk to Denim in a session, and I got some great advice, some great insight. And the first thing I realized is I don't know if I'm ready. I won't know if I'm ready until something, out of the ordinary happens. But something I did take away, I think my biggest takeaway was, okay, I'm fine with emotionally what might happen to me. But there are other people around me that I need to pay attention to. Adam, for example, Lisa, who is in a all three of us are in completely different places at the beginning of this trial than we were for Lori's trial. Mm-hmm. The dynamics are different. We don't know how it will affect us. So if I'm feeling healthy enough, or maybe it'll help me feel healthier, I should be paying attention to the other people around me and seeing what's going on with them and making sure I'm available for them. How did I do on that, Denim?
You did great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are you available? Let's get to this. All right. So I got a lot to unload right now.
Not now.
Let's go, Adam.
You said whenever. You said whenever I'm ready. And I also want to thank everybody also who's sending me private messages and stuff about, this during Chad's trial and all the recap. And then I've read other comments where people are like, man, I know this, but listening to it all over again, it's really bringing up anxiety. It's bringing up trauma. For me, and I don't know what this says about my attachment style, but I am not watching or paying attention to Chad's trial, but I am being informed from different people by reading posts or somebody sending me a message or anything like that. So, for me going through Lori's trial with this, and I went through it the same, I did it the same way I'm doing with this trial. I'm trying to avoid, and maybe avoid is my mechanism to protect myself. So I am avoiding as much as I can. I do want to know certain things or be informed with things that are going on. But for the most part, I try to avoid it. It's not like my focus right now is not on Chad's trial, because I feel like if I sat there for hours and watched and listened, it would probably just devastate me. So I don't know if there's something with avoiding things, but that's where I think I am.
So can I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, let's do a session. Go ahead. This is free, so I can afford this.
And maybe you already answered it. So the reason why you're not tuning in is because you're afraid of getting too sucked in?
I think listening and hearing the things that I didn't hear or listen to in Lori's trial. I think there's some of the same things I think would be coming up. And the other thing is, apparently Chad and his lawyer are trying to blame everything on Lori and Alex. And I'm not giving Lori and Alex any passes, as you know, if you watch this podcast. But it's hard because other people are very angry at this situation. The people that watch the podcast, and they've heard Rex and I talk about how we love Lori and we love Alex and all those things. And then it feels guilty if you try to say something that's true about them when other people, if there's a lie, me and Rex are the first one to say, oh yeah, that happened or it didn't happen. But I don't know. It's a weird place for me to be with Chad going down this route.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were really curious whether or not he would take that tactic or not. So let me just make a comment, because I think this illustrates a really important principle in healthfully managing your emotions. Because it's really one of the most difficult things for people is to know when it's healthy to dig into something, and when it's healthier to change the channel and not dig into something. And there's actually a really simple question that we can ask ourselves that determines whether avoidance is healthy or unhealthy. And that question is there anything that I can or need to do about this right now? That question will almost always enable our brains to differentiate, because if there is something that I need to be figuring out, that I need to be processing, something that I'm avoiding because I don't want to address it, I don't want the pain of it, but there's something there that I really need to figure out, or really need to process in order to not be unhealthy, then avoidance is very dysfunctional. And healthy is digging in. It's doing whatever you need to do to figure it out, to process it, to work through whatever things have been unprocessed or unworked through.
Yeah.
If, however, the answer to that question is no, there's nothing that I need to be figuring out. I've already done what I needed to do. I've already processed. I've already worked through, and at least right now, there's nothing more that I need to do, or that I can healthfully do with this right now. Then perseverating on it is actually the dysfunction. And healthy is actually changing the channel or avoiding the situation. And so the exact same coping behavior is either healthy or unhealthy, depending on whether or not there's something that you ought or can be doing about it. And I would, with your podcast, with your sister and your brother and with all of this stuff, I would be pretty surprised if there are too many rocks that have not been overturned, looked under.
Yeah.
And so it probably would do more harm and create more distress and depression to really delve into this at this point, because there's nothing that you probably need to figure out or need to do with it or have any power to do anything about.
I feel like when all this stuff first started, and when me and Rex talked on the phone, and we were talking about the family and Charles being killed, and then the kids, and then Alex, and then Tammy, and all these things were going on. I think there was certain points that the emotional pain for me was so like more than I can handle.
Mm-hmm.
That now if I think about, oh my gosh, this is all coming up again, and I think I'm protecting myself, because I do not want to go back to those moments where I had that overwhelming pain.
Yeah. And that brings up another good point, which is trauma.
Yeah.
So with any issue, you have normal emotions and a normal emotional response to it. Normal sadness, normal fear, normal anxiety, normal grief. And then you have sometimes, depending on the event, then you have trauma on top of that. And it's unhealthy to not allow yourself to experience normal emotions. And most of the time, especially with loss and stuff, we don't want to not miss somebody. You know, we don't want to not feel loss and sadness for things that have happened. And so it's dysfunctional to and unhealthy to not let yourself feel that. Then trauma is a whole other thing. And trauma is what you're talking about. And this entire issue is so chock full of trauma for all of you that that you have to be really careful to manage those triggers. And you know, there is trauma work that can be done to heal the trauma piece of it, so that what you've got left and what gets triggered most of the time is the emotional piece of it. Mm-hmm. Now, what that means about your attachment style may or may not be tied into your attachment style. If you have an avoidant attachment style,
I think my attachment style, for when you explained the 3 attachment styles in the last podcast, I feel like most of it was secure.
Yeah.
That is my attachment style.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable with that. I think because me continuing to go on and try to live my life and do all that kind of shows that I think that is my attachment style. But just the overwhelming, wave of whatever that was really knocked me out for a while.
And how could it not? And why would you want to go back there?
Right.
I mean,
so avoiding, at least right now, maybe 10 years from now or 5 years or 6 months, I don't know what the timeline is, but at some point I will deal with whatever I need to deal with, but I just don't feel I'm strong enough to do that right now. So that's why I'm avoiding a lot of things.
Well, and I would argue that this podcast and your continued work with this is absolutely a mechanism of dealing with the situation.
Okay.
And not just, avoidance, full on avoidance would be, I don't ever talk about this. I don't want, don't even mention it to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it. It's la, 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 trying to
well, I'm okay with talking about it, but you're like kicking over the bigger rocks is what I'm not going back to kicking over big rocks. Little rocks I'm okay with.
Yeah. And there may be a time when you're ready to do that, but
okay, enough about me. I've taken up way too much time. Okay.
Are you kidding? This is great for us optimists. We're sitting here inside your therapy session. Adam, you said you don't have a therapist. You haven't been to a therapist. We know differently. We all observed you being with a therapist and working this through. So that is awesome. Here's a
Joe Sue.
CW, so like needle and thread.
Oh, Joe So.
We're calling her Joe So or Joe from now on. Thank you for responding and bringing us your pronunciation there. Now we can sleep a little bit better knowing what that is. Yeah. Let's keep going with questions from the optimists about this while we have Denim, so other people can get their therapy. Can someone with trauma, Tori Myers asks, can someone with trauma who normally goes for someone who's not within our attachment style?
Can someone with trauma who normally goes for someone, can someone what?
Go for someone, like be attracted to somebody or in a relationship with somebody?
So let's reword it just a little. Can someone with trauma go for someone who's not within our attachment style? Is that what the question is, Tori? Let us know.
Like so can 2 different people be in a relationship if they have different attachment styles?
Well, so can is
functional.
We find ourselves in relationships that are unhealthy all the time.
Right.
And so two things stand out about that question, Tori. One, if we're interpreting your question correctly, one is there aren't very many of us who don't have trauma. Life is really difficult. It's difficult by design, and I've yet to meet anybody who gets through this life without trauma. There are, of course, varying levels of trauma, but we all experience trauma. So I think your population then includes most everybody when you're saying, can someone with trauma? And if you're saying the only attachment style that should absolutely the healthiest dynamic is someone with a secure attachment style being with someone else with a secure attachment style. The secure rule book is the healthiest blueprint for a successful relationship. And so ideally, you want to be working on your own attachment style. If you're either avoidant or anxious, you want to be working on your own attachment style, moving toward a secure attachment blueprint. And it's much easier to be in a relationship with somebody with a secure blueprint than to be in a relationship with somebody with an avoidant rule book or with an anxious rule book. Can you make any of those work? Can any combination work? Yes, but there are real predictable challenges, and it takes two people both being willing to submit to healthy. So one of the greatest things about my job is that healthy works. Across time, healthy works. It may not work every single time, but across time, healthy will consistently work. And so you've got, in order to have a healthy relationship, you've got to have a partner who's willing to meet you in healthy. And if you're trying to be healthy and the other person can absolutely sabotage your efforts, no matter how hard you try.
So people are asking about, we're talking about attachment styles, and somebody's saying, opposites attract in a relationship, but I don't think that has to relate with the attachment style. It's more like one likes spicy food, one doesn't. One likes sports, one doesn't. Like when you're talking about opposites attract, I feel like it's more things that you like or dislike, right? Or no? Am I wrong?
Well, you are right, and there's a little bit more to that. In fact,
I'm wrong. I just want to say it. You are right about it, but you also are very wrong, sir.
Not very wrong, but a very common pairing is somebody that's avoidant with somebody who's anxious. And one of the great questions is why would somebody anxious choose somebody who's avoidant? Because again, so that the anxious belief system, the anxious brain, doesn't know what to expect in attachment moments. They don't have a consolidated. So attachment style is all about our beliefs around our worth and our safety with somebody. Do I expect to be valued and to matter to the people that I'm supposed to? And do I expect to be emotionally safe with them? And the anxious person doesn't trust. Remember, we talked a little bit about object permanence. The anxious person fears that if they're not constantly present in front of their partner, there's this fear that they're going to be forgotten, that they're not going to continue to matter, that they're not going to continue to be safe. And so the anxious person is constantly monitoring. Are you still there? Do you still love me? Do you still want me? Do you still find me attractive? Would you rather be with her than me? Would you rather? So there's this constant attempt to get reassurance. And so by choosing somebody who is avoidant, and the avoidant person believes, okay, I need to keep people at bay. Relationships are scary. And when the avoidant person tries to keep somebody in this space between not being too close and not losing you. And so when somebody starts to get too close, the avoidant brain starts to feel suffocated, starts to look for reasons to create space. What do you mean you want to move in? Or what, you want to get married? We've only been dating for 4 years. They start looking for reasons to create space. They romanticize past relationships. They think they haven't found the one yet. And so then when the other person is like, okay, well, maybe I need to move on to somebody else. Once they start getting too far away, then the avoidant brain is like, hey, I didn't no, someday we'll get engaged. Someday, yeah, I'll give you a key to the place next month, So they try to keep you in this space in between. And so what does that do to the anxious brain? Gives them exactly what they expect. When you're turning toward me, okay, yeah, you love me, you pursue me, and then all of a sudden you're ghosting me and you're gone. And so it reinforces that belief in the anxious brain that relationships can't be trusted, and that I've got to constantly monitor because I never know when the other shoe is going to drop. So that's a really common pairing because it gives us what we expect to get. Tori, I hope that answered your question. If not, ask more.
Yeah.
Well, let me slide this question in from me, because I know you said the 3 places from which we get our attachment style were parents, mother, father, spouse, and God. We have several optimists. We don't know how many optimists, but we know we have optimists who are non-believers. They don't believe in God and they aren't sure about God. Is there something else that has the opportunity to give them an attachment style, or would they then just get it from their parents and or their spouse?
Yeah, so we kind of, and I think we talked a little bit about this the first podcast that we did, although we may not have, but so the primary tenet of attachment theory is what we call a secure base. We talked about core the first time, didn't we?
Yeah, core.
The first time,
Yeah.
So the primary tenet of attachment theory is a secure base. And a secure base is a safe haven to go to and a solid foundation to launch from. When I'm struggling, when I'm disorganized emotionally, a secure base is a safe place to fall back on. And it's also, we progress in life through exploration. And so a secure base is also a launch pad to enable me to go and tackle the world, because I know that you've got my back. I know that I've got it someplace that I'm coming home to. And so, and how a secure base is established and maintained is through availability and sensitivity. Mm-hmm. When I need you, I have access to you. You pick up the phone, you put down your phone, you stay up late, you take me to the airport in the middle of the night, or I have access to you when I'm in need. And not only do I have access to you, but you're also sensitive to me when I'm in need. You don't tell me to stop being a wimp, or that's not that big a deal, or why are you crying, or those kinds of things. No, I have access to you when I'm in need, and you're sensitive to me when I'm in need. And so the reason why those 3 relationships are the only ones that can fully function as a secure base is because those are the only 3 relationships upon which we have sufficient claim to satiate the demands of access and sensitivity necessary to establish and maintain a secure base. So if I'm trying to get that from a buddy, or from a sibling, or from a coworker, or even from somebody I'm having an affair with, then I'm not going to have the access to them and the sensitive response consistently enough to establish and maintain a secure base. So there are lots of people who don't believe in God and don't have that kind of relationship with them. There are lots of people who don't have a spouse, and there are or a partner. And there are lots of people who don't have a relationship with their parents that functions as a secure base. In other words, there are lots of people who don't have a functional secure base in their lives. So what do those people do? Well, it doesn't change the fact that we all have attachment needs. Mm-hmm. It just means that we don't have a relationship in our life that can healthfully meet those needs. And so that's when it becomes super important to understand how attachment works and how the attachment system works, because then I have to be able to use a smorgasbord of relationships to meet my attachment needs without over or under interpreting the access and the sensitivity in those relationships.
Wow.
So I might have a good buddy that I rely on, or 2 or 3. I might have a sibling that I rely on. I might have a mentor or a coach that I rely on. But there are going to be times in any other relationship, because those 3 relationships are the only ones that we have primacy in.
Mhm.
Parent, I have a healthy expectation to matter and to have primacy to my parents. They brought me into life, and I get to expect them to be sensitive and available to me. Spouse or partner, that's the only relationship where I get to be number one. That's the only relationship where I get to expect to be in the first place. And then God, in my belief system, I believe that I have healthy expectation of access and sensitivity from that relationship as well. But if I'm trying to get all my attachment needs from my friend, well, there are going to be lots of times when he or she is appropriately unavailable to me because of other more important relationships in their life,
Mm-hmm.
other than me, that do come and should come higher than I come as a friend.
Mhm.
And so then there are going to be lots of moments when I'm going to feel like I don't matter, or I'm going to feel like I'm not safe, not because they don't care about me, but because I'm in the appropriate spot in their life. And if they're trying to, if my friend is putting me above their kids, or my friend is putting me above their spouse, that's not healthy.
Right.
Does that make sense, Rex? Did I answer that?
This is so insightful. Here's a comment I think that reflects what many of us, if not all of us, are thinking from Nina Canadian. This is very good energy here. My gratitude to everyone who gathers together here to speak of anguish and the pursuit of balance. Isn't that a great comment?
That's a great
Yeah,
comment.
I love balance. I'm a big fan of balance.
Very good. And Shady Lamps continues the legacy of generous donations here, sending love and support, and know you and your family run in my prayers and thoughts. Thank you, Shady Lamps. They're in Arizona.
Yeah, she's awesome. We got to meet her at a book signing and
cool.
live podcast. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, that was very enjoyable. We like those opportunities. There aren't enough of them. Here's another comment that goes along with the thing we're talking about, but takes it a different direction. I'm a non-believer, not a Christian. I believe in my fellow man and the universe, and I send you healing thoughts and wish you peace and tranquility in these difficult times.
So
I love that because it gives me permission to tell people, anyone who's a non-believer, okay, so you don't send prayers, just send healthy thoughts. I personally don't know the difference between prayers and healthy thoughts. I think in my belief system, they're all the same. So wishing healthy thoughts or however you express that, whether you're a believer or not, I think is very helpful. And I know from me and Adam, very appreciated.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
and so important in creating a community, right? There needs to be
Yes, I knew we were going to get something from his backyard. I was waiting for this whole time. Only 43 minutes in before we heard.
That's my neighbor. There's a car alarm going off, and the next door neighbor's dog is.
I was hoping it was a rooster or something.
We're a little late in the day, Adam.
Yeah,
So I was just going to say that's such a great thing in terms of community, and there needs to be space for, and I just let me be clear that I wasn't saying that you have to have those 3 relationships functioning in your life, that you have to have a spouse or partner, you have to have a healthy relationship with a parent, and you have to have a healthy relationship with some sort of deity. I'm talking about how to get your attachment needs met.
Yeah.
And that's all I was talking about.
And Rex and I, there was maybe a podcast, maybe I can't remember. We've done so many now, but I remember a podcast where Rex and I were talking about, this community, and everybody is welcome. Whatever you believe in, whatever skin color you have, whatever, anybody and everybody, because this is like this community is really about everybody coming together and healing. And then that's why our Facebook group has just keeps growing and growing, is because everybody realizes that we all need each other. It's like this one big family of people who need or feel like they need to belong to something or be part of something that is supportive. And so Rex and I are just like, hey, we're supportive. We don't care what you believe. We support you and love you and bring you in with open arms. So that's what's different, I think, about our community than maybe some of the other ones.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. The comments up here from Becky Klepper. I feel like protecting your boundaries is so important. If I avoid something because I know it's bad for my health at that time, then that's good. I'm 100% understanding of Dr. Slade.
Good, Becky. I'm glad that I'm making sense, because
Becky, I could have called you. I didn't have to go on and talk to Dr. Slade this whole time. You could have just explained that to me.
about half the time I feel like I'm not making much sense. So I appreciate that feedback.
We all like some validation now and then. That's a common one. Oh, here's a good one from Tori Myers again. Adam, have you hugged your cow?
Oh, we're going back to that again. Yes, I did hug a cow, actually.
She didn't. You have seen it on the Facebook group.
Yeah. I am going to hug a legitimate cow. Now, Rex and Lindsay and Kimberly bought me a blow-up cow, and I blew it on my birthday, and I blew it up, and I hugged it and took a picture outside my pool and posted it on our Facebook page. So yes, you can see me actually hugging a cow. And what's funny about that, just today I looked on our Facebook group, and somebody has a guy hugging a cow, and people are like, is that actually Adam hugging that cow? But I think me hugging, I grew up with dogs, and I think petting a dog and loving on a dog is therapeutic. It makes me feel good. It releases endorphins. I feel like animals are here for us, and I love horses, and I don't know. I love it, and I've always wanted to just hug a cow. And so that was like 6 months ago, and it still is going on since Rex and I were on a podcast where we were at a goat yoga complex here in Arizona. And I should have taken my chance to hug a cow when I had it. I just didn't want to walk a mile.
So when you say you grew up with a dog, you mean once you left home and got married? Because you didn't have a dog at home.
No, our family, when growing up, we did not have dogs.
Yeah, I don't see your siblings as dog type people.
Well, as my mom and dad said, we have 5 kids and we don't have room. Like, they didn't want kids spending the night. We have way too many kids. No one's ever going to take care of dogs. And we all begged, can we get a dog? Can we get a dog? So as soon as I left home and got married, I bought a dog. And then I've had a dog all the way through my marriage. I've always had dogs, and I've always loved on dogs. I don't know. I have a special spot in my now, cats I'm allergic to. So if you're a cat, I know we have a lot of cat lovers here too. And cats are great, except for I can't be around them because I'm allergic.
So Anna Franco asks, Dr. Slade, do you recommend the Imago relationship therapy?
What's that?
Anna, I'm not familiar with it.
Ooh, Anna's stumping all of us here.
Yes, Google, everybody. Here we go.
In other words, no, he doesn't, because he doesn't.
Imago.
Yeah. Okay, so here's
I don't yet.
Oh, he's Googling it. So, well, you don't have to do all of your research right here during the show here. But let me ask this while you look for that. Winch Gritton, who gave us a comment earlier, and I'm afraid to say her name, but I think it's Winch Gritton or Gritton. I'm just going with that. So I'm extremely extroverted, and I'm going to switch the words here, Winch. Could I never work with an extrovert? Let me throw something in, Denim, then you can comment using this as an example. I'm extroverted myself by nature, and Lisa is who Denim knows, and but she's extremely introverted. We've learned to work together pretty darn well. In fact, we are thrilled with how we work together. What do you think, Denim? Is that common? I mean, you do it.
Great question. Introversion and extroversion doesn't have a lot to do with attachment. The answer to that question becomes more a temperament question. and would tie more into core and temperament and personality. So so for those of you that have listened to the podcast on core, C's and E's, C's are motivated by comfort and connection, and E stands for excellence and exactness. Both C's and E's are very, very internal processors. And so most introverts are either C's or E's. And so you're probably either a C or an E. And so O's and R's tend to be more extroverted and tend to be the ones that that externally process. And so, like Rex and Lisa, introverts and extroverts can work very well together on an attachment perspective, because that doesn't have anything to do. What has to happen in order for attachment to work is, when I'm disorganized emotionally, I have to be willing to vulnerably turn to my partner. Now, if either, because introverts can do it for reasons or not do it for reasons, extroverts can do it or not do it for different reasons. But if I'm unwilling to turn to my partner, they cannot be a secure base for me. I have to give somebody an opportunity to catch me, or I will never feel safe with them and that I matter to them. I might think it, but I'm not going to feel it and know it unless I give them a chance. And then when I do turn, they have to be willing to respond with sensitivity and availability. And so that can happen, introversion, extroversion. When you're talking about temperament, there are some predictable challenges that you have with different combinations. A C with an R has predictable challenges, and an E with an O. So there are temperamental challenges that come into play with introversion and extroversion, but in and of itself, that is not a variable that should preclude a combination.
Okay, well, Kathy McDowell asks, what are your thoughts, Denim, on someone being a lone wolf for a majority of their life and are happy without attachments?
So the vast majority of lone wolves are people with an avoidant belief system, with an avoidant blueprint, because the avoidant brain believes that on a core level that relationships can't be trusted, and that it's not a good idea. Why would I let somebody in to disappoint me? Why would I make myself vulnerable when they're just going to leave me or they're just going to hurt me? I'm the only one that I can count on. I'm the only one that I can trust. And a lot of people will wear independence as a badge of honor. I don't need anybody. I don't depend on anybody. My life's not any better because I don't have a relationship in my life. And the research just doesn't support that. There are mountains of studies that show that we as human beings are better off with and in a healthy relationship. So if you kind of think about a continuum, being in a really bad relationship is the worst place to be. Being in a healthy relationship is the best place to be. Being alone is in the middle. And this is in terms of physical health, emotional health, longevity, cardiovascular function, immune system. I mean, this has been looked at frontwards, backwards, sideways. And so we as human beings are better in a healthy relationship than we are alone.
Yes,
so,
I agree.
Does that mean you're miserable? You're going.
I've been lone wolf for a while, and I was like, yeah, no, I get it. You, everybody. Well, like you said, if you find somebody that is your partner, like somebody that you gel with, and somebody you
have a healthy relationship with,
it would be the greatest thing, right? But like you said, being in a bad relationship, and if somebody's been in a bad relationship, they feel like I would rather be alone. And I've heard this from so many people. I would rather be alone than be in another relationship because their relationship was so bad and they don't trust that they're going to find that person that's going to be in the healthy relationship. Or maybe they had such a bad relationship, they don't want to put the effort in, or they don't trust, or whatever it is. So they're happy with just being by themselves and being medium, and not willing to take the chance to be happier.
Totally. And that's, what'd you say, Rex?
So for a time period.
Yeah, for a time period. Yeah.
So, I mean, so I'm just in the process of finishing up it's called Compatible Connections. We've developed a program just for that demographic, because there are a lot of people who have most everything going well in their lives. You know, they might be doing well in their career. They might be doing well in their other relationships, in their parenting. But their love life isn't working well because of those things, and because they've had failed relationships or loss or whatever, and they don't know how. And we live in a world where dating is scary, and the digital catalogs of online dating are really frustrating. And so, knowing how to make a good decision when you either have been hurt or you have a series of making bad decisions, it can be really difficult. And when you understand core and temperament and attachment, and how to use that to make your decisions and to assess, because dating is all about assessment. Ideally, you put dating as a funnel, you put 100 people in the top. You don't want 10 to come out the bottom. You want to put 100 people in the top, and you want to have one come out of the bottom. And so knowing how to effectively filter is super important. And what I would just say is, if you've landed on the belief that the healthiest and happiest place is to be alone, you're wrong. Yeah. It is better than being in an unhealthy relationship, but it is not nearly as good as being in a healthy relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense. Completely makes sense. Speaking of a healthy relationship.
Hi, Lisa.
Here's Lisa.
There's the couple.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
We love our introvert extrovert relationship.
Right.
And have made it work.
Right. And I was listening to that. Not only introvert extrovert, but secure and avoidant, which the avoidant has become secure with a secure relationship, and
because she did a lot of work with her therapist.
That
worked miracles for her.
Well, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Lisa actually is a really good example of because, like I've said several times as we've talked here, that attachment style is changeable. Mm-hmm. It is one of the foundational core beliefs that filter almost everything that comes at us. And while most of us never do change it throughout our lives, it is absolutely changeable. And Lisa is a good example of that. She through very good reasons had an avoidant rule book and has worked hard and found somebody who could and would be a safe place to rewrite that belief system, and has done so. And I think you're a really great example of how hard that can be and how you can successfully do it.
Yeah.
Obviously a freakishly gorgeous example.
Well,
and before we end here, we're getting close on time. I want to make sure to say welcome back, Ali79. She has a question, also says, hello all, good to see you. What if a person has a bit of each style, Denim?
I asked that question when we had him on. I said, I saw three. I said, I think I'm all three. You're like, no, you got to be one.
And again, that kind of comes back to temperament a little bit as well. Adam is an O. O's see the potential and possibility in almost anything. I mean, O stands for optimism, and O's look at any situation and think that there's a way to make it work. And you're not going to have every trait of any of the three attachment styles, and none of the traits of the others. And there will be times in any relationship when you feel unsafe, and when you find it difficult to vulnerably turn toward your partner. Likewise, you will find it there will be moments when your partner is turning to you and it's hard, and any parent certainly knows this. There are times when it's hard when your kid turns to you, and it's hard to be sensitive and available. It happens to me several times a week. And that doesn't mean that my default rule book and my belief system is avoidant or anxious. My rule book is secure, but there are times when I'm sucking mud, or I'm out of my window of tolerance, or my partner is, or hormones come into play. There are times when we behave in unhealthy ways for a variety of reasons. That doesn't mean that I don't have a consolidated rule book that dictates my belief system around intimate relationships.
I think I need to mention something just from reading some comments and stuff. There are people that are alone, and we've mentioned being alone is in the middle, being in a bad relationship is the worst, and being in the really good relationship is the best. So there are people that are listening or watching or whatever that are alone and feel like, look, I'm super happy being alone. And so I don't agree with what you're saying. The happiest was to be somebody. But if you think about this, think about if you dream of whoever you want to be with, right? And they are perfect. They're perfect, the looks wise and the personality and everything. And you get to be with that person and make a relationship with them. You don't think that would be better than being alone? And that's what you're talking about. You're not talking about, well, I've been in bad relationships and relationships don't work. I'm happier being without a relationship. I think people are getting offended or getting it confused of what you're saying as far as what a healthy relationship can bring.
Well, and I certainly don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And
right.
I don't want my words to be interpreted as me saying that you're dysfunctional or that you're
right.
You're not.
Because I'm alone right now. Right. I'm going to take offense to you.
Right. But let me ask it this way. So every single one of us has two fundamental needs that are non-negotiable in life. And those two needs are to matter, to feel like we're valued to the people that we're supposed to matter to, and to be emotionally safe with the people that we're supposed to be safe with. Those needs are not, they're not like frosting. It's not like it's nice to have these things. Those are core, unalterable needs that, barring some sort of intellectual disability, every human being has. And so if you ask yourself this, why wouldn't you want to be in a relationship with someone who you feel safe with? Why wouldn't you want to be in a relationship where you get to be with your best friend, where you get to feel like your thoughts and your opinions and your feelings matter, where you get to feel like a priority, where you get to feel like somebody has your back, and where you get to feel like somebody, when you're in need, you have a healthy expectation and somebody who consistently shows up for you? Why wouldn't you want those things? And so I'm not saying that you should go find anybody that's willing to be with you and just be in a relationship so that you're not alone. No, again, the continuum, it is worse to be in an unhealthy relationship than it is to be alone. And it is better to be in a healthy relationship than it is to be alone. It's a continuum.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you find yourself today. And
right.
I'm not saying you can't, if you're not in a healthy relationship, you're miserable and you're going to be depressed and anxious and crying in bed all day. And
some people really like being alone. I just know that.
But most of the time it's because we don't believe that it's possible.
Right. Or they've had a really bad experience and don't think that what the ultimate person for you is. I'm never going to find him. So
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's,
yeah. And so I think it's really important. And Adam, I'm glad you brought that up. It's really important to understand what we are saying, what I am saying, and what I'm not saying.
Right.
Because every one of us has those needs if our brains are not injured in some way.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of being in a relation. It's a horrible place to be when you have a relationship that isn't functioning well, and when your partner isn't willing to be there for you and isn't willing to show up and isn't willing to be sensitive. It's really bad to be with somebody who has, if you're in the desert and somebody has a big glass of water and they won't give it to you. That's a horrible place to be.
But
And
it's also when people, get cheated on, for instance, or whatever
Absolutely.
that is, they don't want to have that pain again.
No,
So they would rather be alone than have to go be in another relationship. The risk is too hard for them. Right. And that's fine too. I think if that's where you feel comfortable and safe or whatever, as long as you do. But if you do find somebody that you do mesh with really well, that you might be happier. So that I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that.
Yeah, and absolutely, you can absolutely understand why we land on the conclusions that we land on, right? And there's a certain amount of logic that goes into what you just said. If I've been hurt by a series of relationships, or by even one really powerful hurt in a relationship, then it's in our brains. It seems illogical to put ourselves into a situation where we have that kind of risk again. So why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
And you absolutely don't want to do more of the same. Get you more of the same. There's a reason why. So the data is shifting a little bit, but about 50% of first marriages end in divorce. About 60% of second marriages end in divorce.
Wow.
And the reason why is
third marriages are great.
Exactly.
100%.
And that's
if
true,
you're willing to do it a third time, it better be for
Rex. The data supports that. The divorce rate drops way off in third marriages. And the reason why is because most of the time we make the decision the same ways that we made it the first time. And so frequently the same dynamic that existed in the first marriage exists in the second marriage. Again, that comes back to the power of attachment style, because on a subconscious level, we attract and we are attracted to people that give us what we expect, not what we want, but what we expect. And so we find ourselves in the same dynamic that didn't work the first time. It's not more likely to work the second time. In fact, it's less likely. And most people will make a decision to get out of it quicker. And then, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, it's typically between that point and the third marriage where people start looking in the mirror and realizing, well, man, I need to do this differently. And so then they typically either do the work, they make the decision different, and then the third marriage lasts, or the divorce rate is way lower in the third marriage.
So Rex and Lisa is bringing that number up, and then Lori brings that number down. So we're trying to even
all right, Optimus. This is exactly where we want this community to go, where we want our podcast to go. We want to have to cut it off because with still a lot of people with questions, we have several star questions, very valid questions, situations that y'all are sharing with us. I'm sorry we can't get to all of them. Adam and I decided long ago we'd rather have our podcast recorded too long.
No doubt. We do not want people to turn these guys off, please. Enough of these two.
And we want it to be like this. Now, we talked a lot about ourselves in the beginning because that's what we were here for, talk about the trial. We don't want to lose talking about the trial. Next week is going to be a good example of ways we are trying to walk the balance between talking about you and talking about healing and bringing resources while still giving our family perspective on what's going on at the trial. So next Tuesday, the podcast that'll be released is Ben and Alice Together. Many of you saw Ben's podcast. I mentioned it to Denim, what it is, and his wife's on with him. You do not want to miss that. If you enjoyed this, you do not want to miss that. Okay. because equally powerful, insightful. So that releases on Tuesday. On Friday, we're going to have a live with juror number 18, Tom Evans. We've had podcasts with him before, and we're going to talk about the trial and what's going on in the trial now. Tom's lives in Boise. He's been attending the trial every day. So live podcast next Friday, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. I know y'all are saying, wait, did they actually plan a live ahead and are giving us the time almost a week ahead? Yes, we're trying that out. We'll see if it works. Next Sunday.
Hopefully I can make it. We'll see.
Where's Adam?
Week from Sunday, in other words, next Sunday, we're going to have another live in which Ben and Alice will be here with us to answer questions, as Denim has so graciously done without charging all of us for a therapy session.
I like it.
You could have been rich with this one.
I got at least 20 minutes of good
You
stuff.
got a lot. That was good.
I apologize for taking everybody's time.
It's probably worth what you paid for it, Adam.
It is. It's amazing. I love getting good deals.
But that'll be next Sunday, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. So Tuesday, the podcast releases. Friday, live, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Sunday, live, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. And we want to go this direction. We want guests like Denim. We want Denim for as long as he'll come on the podcast. And we've told you the direction we want to go with this. We want everyone to have resources. Everyone that needs healing to have resources. Adam, you get the last word between us, and then let's give Denim the last word.
All right. Well, I do want to thank Denim Slade, the best soap opera actor out there on Days of Our Lives. Look for him to come on our show and pretend to be a therapist coach. I love that.
He's not pretending.
I'm good.
Doctorate level coach.
So, but yeah, I appreciate everybody. If you know anybody that needs healing, or if you know anybody that you think is down or lonely or whatever stage in life they are, invite them to our podcast, invite them to our Facebook page, and just let them, absorb it and see if it can help them, or if they want to participate, or how that goes. I just feel like the more that we spread the word and let other people know about what we're doing on this podcast, it can help a lot of people. I mean, it's helped me and Rex, and that's why we want to continue to help other people heal from their life's trauma. As Denim said, everybody has trauma. So how do you deal with it is how, why we're here, is to figure out how to deal with it. So anyways, Denim, go ahead.
I appreciate being here. It's always fun to have a live. This is what I've done for almost 30 years. And so it's fun to kind of do things, and take questions, great questions, great insight. And I just encourage you all to study attachment. There's a lot of really good resources out there on it. And when you really understand it and how to utilize it, it is such a game changer in being able to effectively and helpfully manage relationships in your life, especially the intimate relationships in your life.
Love it.
And we are all about that. Just a quick reminder, Denim's written a book that anyone that hasn't read it would benefit from it. It's about relationships. It's about the core model that he talked about. You can get it on Amazon. If I can, here it is. Pull it up. Unlock your core.
How'd you do that?
The magic of internet. Come on, I'm the old one here. I'm the one that should be able to do this.
It's impressive, Rex. Yes, there it is.
Unlock Your Core Potential, Denim Slade, PhD, available to you on Amazon. And if you're in Utah, Denim's I don't know, Denim, are you limited to Utah?
No, I coach people all over the place. So,
okay. So he is.
What's your website? Do you know what your website is, or do you have people for that?
DrDenimSlade.com.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on with us. We appreciate it.
I was going to pull it up to try to impress you again, but I'll pass on that. Just thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you a lot next week.
All right.
Good to see you
And
guys.
look forward to hearing from you in the comments or reading from you in the comments.
Have a good weekend.